Well, it's time to review Madden NFL 22. This game is an improvement from Madden 21, just as Madden 21 was an improvement over Madden 20. The bar that EA sets for itself each year is low enough that they usually cross it. That being said, being better than a bad game doesn't make a game good. Franchise mode got some improvements for the first time in a long time. It's still very bare bones, it's still basically the exact same game mode, however. If you enjoyed the franchise modes of the older PS2 Maddens or NFL 2K games, this will still feel worse. A lot is still missing in 2021. Gameplay is what you would expect from a Madden game. Animation-based, artificial, scripted, and cheesy. This does not play or feel like a simulation-style NFL game. Remember, EA has the exclusive rights to making simulation NFL games until 2026. Meaning, if you actually wanted to play a simulation-style NFL game, you're out of luck. Only EA is allowed to make such a game, and yet they don't. Blame the NFL as much as you might want to blame EA for this. Both are at fault. Madden 22 really has nothing going for it, besides simply being slightly better than a terrible game. Let me show you some examples of good football games so you can further understand my review process. All Pro Football 2K8 was 2K's last football game. Despite being released in 2007, the game still features the greatest gameplay ever seen in a football game to date, at least in my opinion. Just by looking at this footage, you can already tell that it looks more realistic and smoother than a modern Madden title. This game had no franchise mode, however. It was basically all gameplay, but no depth. It was still a very good game. Madden 07 on the PS2 was the greatest Madden game ever in my opinion. This game had incredible depth. The franchise mode in this game still blows modern Madden games away. There are over 80 features present in this game that are not in Madden 22. If you need proof of that, I have an entire video on it. The gameplay in Madden 07 wasn't anything special. It sure wasn't simulation. It was arcadey, but it still was fun and it felt kinda fair. Overall, it was good enough to make the game worth playing, and the sheer depth of the game kept you coming back. It was a great game. My point here is that a football game needs to have at least one of two categories met in order to be a good game: gameplay or depth. Some games like 2K8 only have one category met: gameplay. Still a great game. Older Madden succeeded much more in the depth department than in the gameplay department. They were good games. What makes Madden 22 so bad is that it succeeds at neither category. Gameplay is terrible and depth is terrible, especially for a AAA starting at $60 sports game released in 2021 on next-gen consoles. Simply being better than Madden 21 isn't enough. This game needs to either have good gameplay or good depth to be a good game. Having both would be incredible. Gameplay and depth aren't the only categories for a football game, however, but they are, at least in my opinion, the most important. There are more, such as presentation, polish, and graphics. Madden 22, unfortunately, doesn't fare any better in those categories either. EA has set the bar so low for themselves that they made it really easy to get people to buy their products, or for influencers to fall for it themselves. Think of a child failing every class every year, but one year, he gets a C in math, but F's in everything else. Holy cow, he did better this year. You can be proud of the kid, you can encourage the kid to continue improving, but at the end of the day, the kid still sucks at school. If you were hoping that this was the year EA was going to turn it around and drop an amazing game, I feel sorry for you. I don't think that would be possible for at least 5 years. This game is so dreadful that only by rebuilding it from the ground up could it ever become half decent. But EA refuses to do that. Instead, they reuse old assets over and over and keep building upon the broken foundation of Madden 13. At this point, I would hope you wouldn't be disappointed. This should be expected. Let's take a deeper look. When booting into the game, you'll notice the exact same game modes as always. However, there's now a new mode called Championship Series. Unfortunately, this isn't really a new mode and is just part of Ultimate Team. I tried playing it and it took me straight to that garbage game mode asking me to start grinding against the CPU for packs or something. Pay to win game modes aren't my cup of tea, especially in a fully priced game. Besides that, it's the same old everything. Outside of a new face of the franchise story and some franchise mode improvements, there's nothing new here. Face of the franchise is lame. You can now play as a linebacker, but real ones know that in the PS2 Maddens you could play as any position, even kicker in career mode. You also can't change your jersey number in college, which is pretty annoying. The cutscenes are beyond atrocious. Looks like PS3 graphics are worse. Look at the phone in the girl's hand shaking, or the way your character walks. The script is so cheesy, I just started skipping it, and eventually I just stopped playing it altogether. It's as awful as last year. Think of it as a great value version of 2K's My Career, except the game costs the same and isn't a great value. In this mode, however, when browsing menus, at least at the start, EA added the Rich Eisen show. Just like the old Tony Bruno show, it's a radio show playing in the background. Why didn't they put this in franchise mode? Because EA hates us. The game simply makes you play a bunch of tutorial drills over and over for this game mode. There's no way to change the college difficulty, just like last year, expect to score 80 points a game. Once you get to the NFL, it's basically franchise mode as it always has been, with a few random scenarios popping up where you can get traded to another team. It's just so boring. It might be fun for someone new to Madden games, but for anyone else it isn't worth your time. It's incredibly bare bones and poorly made. Franchise mode was the main selling point this year, I think. EA really hyped up the ability to hire assistant coaches, a feature found in Madden 04 that got removed from the game after Madden 12. While I'm glad they added it back, I don't think such a basic feature deserves praise, especially when it appears to be ripped straight out of EA's NHL games. I don't think EA actually created anything new for this game, but instead they moved stuff around from other EA games. It works. Assistant coaches are generic and unlicensed, but it works. You build up your staff with points similar to how you would in NCAA 14. The other franchise mode upgrade comes with weekly game planning. It's also a nice change. Scouting is coming in a future update, and it also looks to be ripped straight out of NHL 21, but hey, it's better than the current scouting system. As of right now, it's not in the game, however. Besides that, the mode is identical. Sure, it looks different. EA really tried hard to make it look fresh by moving everything around, but it's the same. Same exact relocation teams we've had for years. You can't sign free agents mid-season to a custom-length deal. There's no change to trades, there's no change to anything. When I say the rest is the same, it's the same. Positions are the same too. I usually forget to mention this in my reviews, but Madden uses super outdated positions. Instead of having an edge position, they just have outside linebackers or ends. Meaning, you'll have a pure pass rusher, like Lorenzo Carter in a 3-4 defense, signed to a team running a 4-3 defense as a linebacker, and that player will play most snaps in coverage. It's dumb. Long snappers also still don't have a position and are still low-rated tight ends you have to cut that don't even long snap the ball. You can't sign a player to longer than a 7-year deal. Mahomes' contract is not only not in the game, but also not possible to replicate. Generated or created players in the draft classes will have the exact same faces we've had for years with no further customization. This is the only NFL game, people. Also, despite playing on my Xbox Series X, loading times are as slow as they were on the PS4 or Xbox One when simulating through franchise mode. The mode is also still buggy. My man, Kaz Cray, already in the first day has an issue where he won a game 49-46, and yet after backing out, Madden said the game was lost 46-0. It's inexcusable. If you think, oh, that's something EA will patch up soon, you are being foolish. Don't get me wrong, I'm glad they at least gave us coaching trees and will be adding the new scouting system. It makes the mode and the game better. But it's simply not enough when the game is missing over 80 features from older Madden titles. How can EA innovate when they are still leagues behind their own games from over a decade ago? Those two changes don't all of a sudden make franchise mode good, or prove that EA gave the mode attention. We can't be satisfied with this. EA has not even come close to fixing franchise mode, regardless of what the game changers might tell you in a sponsored video. Be skeptical, be critical. It's our only chance, really, at getting a somewhat decent game. The other game modes include Ultimate Team, which is literally just an online competitive version of Madden, where team building comes from collecting virtual trading cards that you are encouraged to spend money on. You can have a 70 overall team and be instantly matched against a 90 overall team that someone paid to have. I do not and will not understand why people play this mode. If you enjoy Ultimate Team, good for you, but you probably aren't the right audience for my channel. You can go watch one of the hundreds of MUT channels out there, having a blast buying packs right now. The Yard and Superstar KO are the same as last year for the most part. They don't have a real incentive to play and get boring fast, and yeah, that's it. Madden gets a D- here for the small franchise improvements. Actually, no, they get an F+, which is slightly better than an F, but an F+. A D is a bit too kind. Maybe by Madden 34, we will have a decent modern franchise mode and a career mode that doesn't make me want to drill a hole in my head. But even with a somewhat decent franchise mode, the game would still be pretty bad, thanks to the absolute worst part of Madden, which is gameplay. Ugh, gameplay is awful. The best part is the new home field advantage X Factor thing. It looks cool, makes the home crowd have impact, and does the cool squiggly line thing when viewing play art we all loved in the old NCAA games. Everything else about gameplay is garbage. Still no refs in the game until there's a flag, but that's the least of my worries right now. The game is 100% animation based. Physics don't matter, height and weight do not matter. It doesn't even feel like player ratings matter that much. User control doesn't matter. Everything feels scripted towards a predetermined outcome. If you've played Madden anytime recently, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You'll see the exact same animations you've seen for years, over and over. Receivers will catch perfectly placed passes, only for it to roll out of their hands after the slightest bit of contact. Sometimes no contact. CPU AI is terrible. You can drive down the field over and over with good old Y shallow cross. Even with a player like Mac Jones, who's a 71 overall in this game. Since Madden added Y shallow cross to its playbooks many years ago, this play has been unable to be stopped by the CPU defense. Have fun playing offline franchise, guys. Is gameplay tweaked? I guess. It feels like a patch. I'm struggling to find any differences. Player movement feels identical to next-gen Madden 21, at least to me, maybe a bit faster? I'm sure the hardcore MUT players who only play online will notice some tweaks and changes to random parts of the game, but to most people, and people playing mostly franchise mode, this will feel identical to Madden 21. You will have to try really hard to find something different. And yes, ideally, a football game that has mastered gameplay shouldn't need to be any different year to year. But this game has not even come close to mastering anything. It has terrible gameplay, just as Madden has had since switching to the Frostbite engine, and it wasn't even good before then either. When All Pro Football 2K8 looks and plays better than Madden 22, there's an issue. According to some inside sources of mine, EA is very stubborn about their gameplay. The gameplay team wants to continue going forward with animation-based gameplay on the Frostbite engine, a game engine designed for Battlefield, an FPS game. They have zero plans of ever switching to a more physics-based gameplay engine. They hate us. I swear, they hate us. If that bothers you, please reach out to EA any way you can and tell them you want physics-based gameplay, because right now they're under the assumption that what they're doing is fine. Next-gen stats do nothing. It shows the yards traveled after the catch. Cool? Who cares? Blocking is terrible, everything is terrible, nothing makes any sense. It's super buggy too, but I'll go over that later in the polished section of this review. Overall, it feels just like Madden 21, which is a bad thing. If you disagree with me, that's fine, but I mean, just look at this. Does it look any different to you? I guess EA spent all their time this year porting over franchise features from their NHL games, so they had no time to work on gameplay besides switching a few zeros to ones. It doesn't play like NFL football, it plays like Madden, which is probably the meanest thing I'll say in this video. Presentation is actually improved this year. The pre-game intros look better, and in-game replays resemble real NFL broadcasts much more. It does have a nicer look to it. However, commentary is as stale as ever. Yes, Brandon Gaudin and Charles Davis are back for the 6th year in a row, full of all the same lines and phrases you've heard for years, but with some new ones sprinkled in. The scoreboard is about the same as last year, but has this weird, ugly font to it that no actual broadcast company would ever use. I still don't understand why they can't just use multiple scoreboard templates that slightly resemble broadcast ones that like switch for a Monday night game or a Thursday night game or a Sunday night game. After each big play, you are forced to celebrate, and all the options are super cringy and awkward. At this point, I'm nitpicking because I could deal with this if the gameplay or depth was somewhat respectable, but when everything about this game is bad, it's worth mentioning, especially when presentation is still outclassed by ESPN NFL 2K5, a game from 2004. Yeah, 17 years ago. Graphics look terrible. I often see people claim that all Madden is going for is graphics, but I disagree. Look at these fans. Look at the face of the franchise cutscenes. The actual in-game footage looks better than that, but does it look good? No. This game just looks awkward and weird. Sidelines are still horrible. Most AAA video games that came out in the last 5 years look way better. Red Dead Redemption 2, EA's own Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order title, God of War. All of these were last-gen games, and they look way better. I know I'm comparing apples to oranges here, but even the NBA 2K games look way better. Does Madden have the best graphics of any NFL game out today? Yes, because it's the only NFL game out today, thanks to their exclusive rights agreement. Overall, this game looks pretty bad in my opinion for the second release on a next-gen console. In terms of polish, this game is a buggy mess. On the first day, the Madden subreddit was full of glitches and bugs. From scores in franchise mode not being counted correctly, to hands going through another player's chest to make an interception, to really weird graphical bugs, the game reeks of being unfinished and unpolished. And I know, you might point out that it just came out and is technically in an early release state. If you've played Madden for the last few years at least, you'd know that they don't fix this stuff. These are all bugs that have been present for a long time. Rewatch this review in 3 months, the game's going to still be incredibly buggy. I will bet all the money I've ever made on it. I seriously do not think the developers working on this game actually know how to work with this game's code. They add nothing to the game, but instead port over other EA assets, and any tiny change leads to many bugs. The bugs that have plagued the game for years don't get fixed. Yet they ask for at least $60 for the game with special editions going over $100. And people will buy it because it's the only NFL game available. Although I would highly encourage you not to. I really wanted to like this game. I really wanted the title of this video to simply say Madden 22 Review. Madden has potential. One of the largest companies in the world with unlimited resources at their fingertips makes this game. We live in 2021. Next-gen consoles have released. This game could be incredible. And EA has the exclusive simulation NFL rights. So if anyone's going to make an NFL video game, it can only be EA. So you would hope it would be good, right? Instead, it feels like EA doesn't even try. There is no care put into this game. Everything feels reused from older titles or other EA titles. But it's still far, far behind older Madden games from the PS2 era. Nothing about this game says we care about what we do. This game is better than Madden 21, but that means nothing. Is it worth $60? No. I'd have to be paid to play this game again. If you're dying to play this game for some reason, you can get a free 10-hour trial with EA Play included in Xbox Game Pass. That's how I reviewed it. This game gets a 2 out of 10 from me. I gave Madden 21 a 2 out of 10 as well. I gave Next Gen Madden 21 a 3.5 out of 10, but that was because that game was actually a step up from the previous version, although a very small step up. This just feels like Next Gen Madden 21. That's what it feels like. Same old Madden gameplay and bugs, tiny additions that really don't mean much. And remember, all reviews are subjective, and if my opinion on this game bothers you, you are weird. Reviewing something critically is not hating. Thanks for watching. If you guys want to chat with me and other SOFTDRINKTV enjoyers, head over to my new Discord server, link in the description below. I deleted my old one because I lost access to the owner account.